I think it's important that if you do start a group now that you think, okay, anyone who joins this group is a potential customer of mine. And if you're starting a group and without that in mind, you're probably just going to get a whole bunch of people come in and not really participate and probably just try and be there to take advantage of it.
Fire up your mobile device, strap on your earbuds, and prepare for another exciting episode of the Agents of Change podcast featuring Rich Brooks.
Hey everybody, this is Rich Brooks, and you are tuned in to the Agents of Change podcast. We're up to episode 241 and powered by Flight New Media. Now, years ago, I was chatting with Josh and Jill Stanton of Screw the 9 to 5 about coming on the show after meeting them at an Entrepreneur on Fire event, and we hit it off immediately. And I said, why don't you come on the show? And they suggested doing an interview on Facebook groups. I turned him down immediately because I thought it was a really dumb idea. I just didn't grasp how Facebook groups were helpful at all in marketing, and I thought of them really as a place where like-minded people would get together and talk about things that were going on in their neighborhood or how much they like playing bass guitar or whatever it might be. Obviously, I was an idiot. I didn't grasp the value of Facebook groups at the time, something that's just continued to go up in value as the Facebook news feed has become more and more difficult to crack for most businesses. Now, before we get to that, if you're listening to this episode before April 4th, I'm putting on a free webinar on blogging. So if you want to sign up for that, you can head on over to Take Flight, that's F-L-Y-T-E, takeflight.com/30blogging, 30blogging. Even if you can't make it live, you're definitely going to want to register so that you can watch it on demand. And I'll put that link into the show notes as well. Now, today we just had an interview with Josh only, as Jill at the time was very pregnant and couldn't make it onto the show. But Josh and I had a great conversation even while Jill was chilling out and getting ready to be a mom. So let's go check out that interview now. Before I even start this, I have to say, so I was waiting on Josh's bio from his lovely wife, Jill, and she's got a little bit of an excuse. I think she's like 14 months pregnant right now. But the bottom line is, so I think you and I were chatting, Josh, for like 20 minutes, killing time while Jill was sending over this email with your bio in it. And it's basically 2 lines long. So here goes the bio that we waited 45 minutes for, and from Jill, who's 17 months pregnant. Josh,
I'm not going to tell her this, by the way.
I'm going to send her a copy and the transcript of this. Josh Stanton is the co-founder of Screw the 9 to 5. His and his wife's Jill's slice of the internet where they help entrepreneurs get more out of their business and life through simple strategies and how-tos. Josh, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, and what an entrance as well. You've literally put me in the doghouse. By the way, I appreciate that. And so I'm going to show up in the exact same way. No, I'm super pumped, man. It's awesome to be here.
It's awesome for you to be here, and actually, your wife is very pregnant, so she has every excuse in the world. But we were doing research to see if I could pull a bio off the internet for you while she was scrambling around, and it turns out that you share a name with what appears to be an Australian surfer, also South Dakota's premier expert on North Korea, which is just a strange thing as a claim to fame.
Some may say strange, but I mean, if you live in South Dakota, maybe that's a really well-known person, and maybe you have a risk of North Korea at your doorstep. So,
or if you were like, I'm here in South Dakota, and I'm gonna put on a live event, in-person event, and on North Korea, and I need a local expert. This guy is gonna come right up.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to get a lot of people show up if you're going to be talking about North Korea. I'll tell you what, it's going to be people lining up, that's for sure.
How many people are there in South Dakota? I mean, I'm not making fun of that. I live in a state, Maine, that only has one area code because there's so few of us here. But anyways, this is not really what we're going to talk about. Like 65 people, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So I asked you to come on because you run successful Facebook groups, and we're kind of like trying to understand how businesses can do well on Facebook with Facebook groups with all the changes going on. So just first, Josh, tell me a little bit about your main group that you're running on Facebook right now.
So we have a free group called the Screw the 9 to 5 Community. And so it's actually the second iteration of this group. The first iteration got up to close to 50,000 people in the group. And then things kind of adjusted. You know, when we initially came out with the group, there weren't that many. And so it wasn't too spammy. But then over time, it grew really, really spammy. And so we decided to shut it down and reopen it back up with a whole new set of rules to kind of like keep the spam out almost. Basically, we talk about anything to do with entrepreneurship, mostly online entrepreneurship. There's a lot of information based around online marketing and things like that, but also other areas too. We're totally happy to kind of chat about the other areas of entrepreneurship, including what it's like to have a family as an entrepreneur, for example, any other lifestyle aspects. And then another thing that kind of creeps in here and there is kind of interesting is a lot of chatter about health too. So people kind of bring up, their health. And so all these different aspects of the lifestyle of the entrepreneur is what we sort of focus on.
That's interesting because obviously health is something that we often don't talk about, but is so critically important to our success. I do want to come back to talk a little bit about how you're running your group successfully. But while we were chatting, we were also talking about the fact that you have been reaching out to some other Facebook group owners to kind of see how they're doing things, just because you are also curious. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've had in the conversations you're having?
Man, it's been really fascinating. We want to put together a free resource on our site around Facebook group marketing. And so I just started the process of just reaching out to a few people. So I've spoken to three so far. Mark McWhinney, who I know you've spoken to before, Arnie Gisk, and then another lady, her name is Shannon Hernandez. And the two main groups that were kind of interesting were Arnie's one. Arnie has like over 40,000 people in his group, and he uses it more of like a branding kind of play. So his thoughts are, if I can bring enough people into this community and kind of like talk to them and stuff, they can see me, that I'm the owner of that group. And so they're going to be more likely to want to go and see what I'm doing and maybe purchase my products. Whereas Shannon has a much more direct sort of play. So every single month, she uses a tool called GridX. This is really fascinating, called GridX. And she identifies anyone who hasn't posted in the group over the course of the month, and she removes those people from the group. So she's focused solely on engagement. She really wants to make sure people are engaged in there. And what she's found is that every single month, for some reason, she keeps pulling back to about 250 people. And it doesn't really go beyond that. But then she has this really cool way of channeling people towards her services as a coach. So it's much more focused on trying to speak to people individually, whereas Arnie's is more of this branding type of play. So it's been really fascinating learning the different strategies that these different Facebook group owners are using, and it's kind of cool. A lot of these are really easy to apply if you already have a group as well.
All right, so I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that you had what would seem to be a very successful Facebook group, huge numbers, and then you just felt it was getting too spammy and you basically shut it down and reboot it. Why couldn't you just change the rules on the group and say, we're not going to accept this behavior anymore? Why did you feel it was important to start fresh?
I think we didn't know about a tool like GridX at that time. So if we did, I think we would have set different rules and said, look, here's the rules. And also, if you're not posting, we're going to remove you from here. Whereas at the time, it just seemed like it was going to be a pain in the butt to literally remove potentially 20,000 people from a group. It just seemed a lot easier to restart it. And then we just put in one post in the old group and said, hey guys, we're actually moving over here. If you're still active and interested in being a part of our group, then click on this link and go and request access to this new one. And then straight away we went from 45 to almost 50,000 people down to about 5,000 who kicked off the new one. And so it kind of like resurged the energy and also gave them a chance to be like, okay, it's a completely different group, completely different rules. I know I need to abide by these new rules. It's not going to be like the old group.
That's actually great. And it's really funny because it does seem that at least the marketers that I'm talking to numbers are always going to be important, but it's not just always about the biggest numbers possible. That you can get better engagement in a group of 5,000 or even 250, as the example you gave before, than you might with a group of 50,000, which sounds great, but maybe is not giving you the best kind of results based on your business goals.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. One of the things that I would actually consider restarting our group again, and for the reason after learning a lot of different things from the group owners I've been chatting to, it's very important that when you do start a group now that you make it really clear that this is your group and that you will be pitching your products, you will be selling your products and offering people a chance to take you up on those, right? We didn't do that in this current group right now. So what I'm finding is there's a very large subsect of the Facebook group audience who are people that are just lurking, and they're just kind of like lurking and like trying to like get business off other people in there. So if they see someone post about something that maybe they have a service on, they'll like jump in there straight away and they'll like PM people and like say, hey, I offer this as a service, and they're almost like sharks, right? Whereas like, I think it's important that if you do start a group now that you think, okay, anyone who joins this group is a potential customer of mine. And if you're starting a group and without that in mind, you're probably just going to get a whole bunch of people come in and not really participate and probably just try and be there to take advantage of it.
That makes a lot of sense. And so for your group then, you're creating this area where entrepreneurs can come and talk, but you absolutely are trying to get them into your funnel for Screw the 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
We are. Yeah.
So you had mentioned one of the ways that you were able to reboot this group is you went to the old group and said, hey, if you're serious about having real conversations, come over here. Let's imagine that you or somebody else you're working with doesn't have that. How do you actually start a group and get people to show up in the first place?
So one of the things that I've learned from speaking to a number of group owners, and we've seen it ourselves, is that the growth of a group is really dependent on the engagement of the group. So if you have a really highly engaged group, people are posting, people are commenting, even if there's hardly any people in there, Facebook is going to serve that up in the recommended group section in the sidebar there. Also, if people are searching in the Facebook search bar, they're searching for anything to do with your group. By the way, this is a great tip too. Make sure, and this comes directly from one of the people I spoke to, Arnie. He said, make sure that when you are creating your group, that you are ensuring that there's some kind of relevant keyword to your particular niche. Does that make sense? So it's like with Screw the 9 to 5 community, our keyword basically is just Screw the 9 to 5. So we're playing more of a branding type play. But if you're just getting started and you don't have an existing brand or any awareness around that, I recommend trying to think of some kind of relevant keyword to your particular niche. That way, when people search for it, your group may come up in the search results for it. So those are two main areas. But engagement is super important. If you have you might have a really big group but low engagement, it's not going to be served up in the different areas that I just mentioned there. Whereas you can have a group of 100 people, but everyone is chatting in there. That thing is going to show up so much more than a group of 10,000 people where hardly anyone is actually engaging.
So we should be focused more on engagement than actual group size is definitely what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, and that's what Facebook has made very clear as well. I mean, their goal is to keep people on Facebook. So they're going to obviously help you out if you are providing them with that.
All right. So we get started. We set up the group. Do you have any thoughts on, do we make this group public? Do we make it closed? Do we make it private?
So we've seen closed groups tend to be the best. Public groups, you're going to get a lot of spam. Secret groups obviously can't be found, but closed groups can be found, but they have to request access.
Yeah, so I think secret groups are probably best if you already have a product and service, and the Facebook group is an add-on to that service rather than using that to generate new potential leads. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
definitely. And I think a lot of people use secret groups for like bachelor party weekend and stuff like that, So
right.
the closed group is definitely the way to go.
It does seem that a lot of the people I've spoken with, closed groups are for businesses, and that's really the way it becomes. Now, for you, do you have a policy where anybody can accept a new member, or do you and an admin have to approve whoever's going to join the group?
So the way it works is, so right now with groups, you can actually ask 3 questions before someone requests access. So our policy is if they don't answer those questions, then we actually decline them access to the group. A really good strategy, which we'll start adopting soon, and this is probably a really good one to talk about. This is something that that lady I mentioned, Shannon, she uses. I think it's every Tuesday and Thursday is when they let in their new group, new group members. And what they'll do, this is a really amazing strategy for anyone getting started. What she'll do is she'll let them in, but then she'll drop a post that tags in those new members as a welcome post. It says, hey, I just want to welcome the new members who've just joined today. And then she'll tag all those different people. And then it's kind of cool because then she'll have like a welcome committee almost show up every single time and be like, welcome to the group. And it creates a new set of engagement there. So that's a really simple strategy.
That's clever.
That I think a lot of people should use. Yeah.
So the 3 questions, I didn't know about this. So when somebody, says they want to join your group, how does that work exactly? Like, do they see like, here are 3 questions the group owner wants you to answer?
Yeah, exactly. So when you click on request access, I think a pop-up box shows with those 3 questions.
Would you mind sharing what your questions are?
Yeah. So our questions, the first one is, do you agree to our rules? And we have a link to the rules there. That's the first one. If they say no, then we don't let them in. Or if they don't answer, because it's also optional too. So if they don't answer, then we don't let them in as well. They have to say yes. The second one is we ask people, and we're probably going to adjust this one, but we would ask people whereabouts in the world they kind of live. And we just want to kind of gauge like, okay, well, where are most people sort of joining us from in this group? And then the third one is we have a product called Screw You, which is our premium membership community. And the third question is we just say on a scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in learning more about Screw You? And so people can put down 1, they can put down nothing, they can put down 10. So they have to answer those questions to be let into the group. So that third one is like the pipeline question. So when someone answers a 10, we're going to reach out to them and we're going to say, hey, would you like to hop on a call? Because we can maybe discuss to see if you'd be a good fit for our community, for our paid community. So those questions are kind of twofold. One, it's a good way of determining if people are going to be like people who actually show up in the group or if they're going to be lurkers. If people don't answer the questions, they're probably not going to be that serious of a member inside the group. And the second thing is you have a chance of actually funneling them through to your products and services.
That makes a lot of sense. And so now I'm thinking, so you've got this paid membership group. I believe it's called Screw You.
Yes.
Yes.
Not Screw You, but
Screw University. Exactly. I think the way I said the U, that people knew that there was a period after the letter U, but maybe I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. So how do you get people to jump from the free Facebook group over to your paid membership and apply to join there? Like, how are you pitching this within the group to say, hey, the conversation's great here, but it's even better in our paid membership?
So I would say the area to take advantage of the most is your pinned post in a group. So when you create a group, you can choose to set one pinned post that appears at the top of the group. So in there, we will just mention that there's an opportunity for you to upgrade to Screw You. If you want to learn more, click on this link and go check it out. The other way of doing it, I believe probably the best way, would be to offer some kind of bridge between that group and your membership or whatever your product is. A really good type of bridge would be like free training, like a free webinar or something like that, but also like free content too. So if you're producing a blog post or a podcast or whatever, and you know that you're kind of funneling off the back of that towards your products and services, then drop that free content in your group. That way you're not like dropping a link to your sales page and saying, here, buy this thing. You're actually saying, here's a bunch of free content related to this kind of stuff. If you're interested, check it out. And then from there, that starts the flow or the pipeline towards your products.
Are you doing anything like Facebook Live? I'm not even 100% sure you can do this, but I'm assuming you can do Facebook Live from a group. Are you doing any of those kind of interactive pieces in your group?
Yeah, we used to. We started running like a Facebook Live show, but we weren't getting a lot of traction out of it. So we decided to kind of pull back from that. But I mean, yeah, like that's another example of a great bridge. Like you're getting on and you're discussing some kind of topic related to your product and also related to something that your members would be interested in. And yeah, you're providing a ton of value and then you're just bridging them towards or channeling them towards your products from there. So Facebook Live is a great way of doing that as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about like if we're using Facebook Live as an add-on to another thing that we're selling, like if you've got a paid membership and a Facebook group is part of it, you might be able to do interviews or some other value-added content that people could either watch live on Facebook and participate in, or they could watch it on demand afterwards, and then you could also put it up to your membership group as well at the end of the day.
Yeah, the only thing I will say about Facebook Live is that it's on Facebook's platform, so it's very distracting. Like what we've been seeing is that like over time, like people aren't really watching our Facebook Lives for very long. They're kind of like tuning in for a little bit, but it's not being that effective. But what we've seen is when someone takes the action to leave Facebook, like clicks on a link to like go and register for a webinar or clicks on a link to go to a blog post on your website, we're seeing a lot better results from that because we're removing the distraction of Facebook. So I don't know if like that's something that everyone would see, but that's what we've noticed anyway.
Interesting. Okay. So you closed down your first group and you reopened the second one. How are you dealing with what you call bad behavior in that new group? Are you warning people, just kicking them out? And how do you find out about it? Because, you mentioned these people are sharks. I would think almost more like barnacles. Like you can't be seeing every bad behavior, in the group.
Mm-hmm. So moderators is one thing you have to take advantage of. As you grow in size, you have to have moderators who are willing to report things. Also, it's quite easy to report posts now in Facebook. I don't know if you notice that, but in a group, we get a lot of people reporting things, like our hardcore members. They'll report something, and so they know what the rules are. Everyone knows what the rules are, and usually, if someone does something that goes against the rules, it gets reported straight away, and we remove it straight away, and then we remove them from the group. So we have a zero tolerance policy with our rules. If you break any of the rules, you're removed from the group. And then sometimes people will PM us, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. Like I didn't know. I didn't realize I made a mistake." And then if it's clear that they learned from it, then we might let them back in. But straight away, we remove them.
All right. And how much time do you spend in these groups? Are you pretty active? Are you in there every day?
No, I'm not that active in there. I would say our group maybe makes up 20% of our marketing. So the thing about groups is it's really fascinating. I think if you focus entirely on groups at the beginning of your business, if you're a service provider, consultant, coach, whatever, I think it's actually a fantastic way of initially getting traction in your business. But the one thing I don't love about it is that you're building out Facebook's content. You're building out Facebook's platform. Whereas like I think like over time as you grow into a bigger brand, there's more benefits in growing out your own website and your own content pieces as opposed to just focusing all your time on Facebook. It's also really distracting spending a lot of time in there if you're wanting to go to the next level. I would say like Facebook groups are really fantastic for initial traction in business.
That is an interesting take on that. So this has been great, Josh. I've definitely learned a few new things I want to put into my own Facebook group. Tell the people again where we can find you online.
So 2 places. I would say the best place is just check out our website, screwthe9to5.com. You can see everything that we've got going on over there. I'm hoping that by the time this comes out, we might have the Facebook groups post that free guide done. So if we do, we'll shoot you through that link. Other than that, we have a podcast. you can subscribe to that at thescrewshow.com.
Awesome. Josh, thanks so much for stopping by, and good luck on your new addition to your family.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
A lot of good stuff shared by Josh, and you can get all of the links he shared by heading on over to theagentsofchange.com/241. That's theagentsofchange.com/241. And besides the links, we actually have a full transcript for you, so be sure to check that out. Now, between the interviews I've done on the podcast and what I learned at Social Media Marketing World 2018, I'm leaning towards taking our annual private Facebook group for Agents of Change attendees and opening up to anyone who listens to the podcast or attended the conference in the past or just wants to learn new ways to reach your ideal customers who search social and mobile marketing. So again, in the past, we've created this Facebook group, and it's basically been just for attendees, which is great, but at the same time, it just means, a lot of work on our end to get everybody in and get everybody out afterwards. And I'm just thinking that maybe that's not the best way to really create an ongoing community around the ideas of the Agents of Change, which is, how do we market our businesses using digital marketing? How do we market things online? So let me know your thoughts about this, but that's definitely the way I'm leaning. You can reach out to me, rich@takeflight.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm the Rich Brooks on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. You can also just leave a comment here in the show notes or use our contact form at theagentsofchange.com. Plenty of ways to reach out to me, and let me know if you think it would be a good idea to open this group up to anybody who's interested in the ways of AOC, and if you'd be interested in joining that Facebook group. Well, that's all we have for this week on the Agents of Change podcast. Talk to you again in 7.
It looks like we reached the end of another episode of the Agents of Change podcast, and another mystery has been solved. But for how long? And what new challenges will appear on the horizon? Join us next time for more digital marketing adventures.